So they could rebel. The answer is yes, they could rebel, but so far it has not happened. At least as far as we know. So can this rebellion of supposed rebellion of midichlorian act as a grey side? Yes, they can act as the grey side because they reclaim the balance. But of course, from pragmatic point of view, we know that when we try to reclaim balance, it ends violently, as earlier mentioned Order 66. So we're not sure how this would play out, and we would have to see. So both sides of the Force were hoping for that one guy that will bring balance to the Force, but that never happened because, well, the Force users were based on polarization, not on the free side system, which polarization. What polarization is doing is they promote conflict. That's why in the world of conflict it is very difficult to find a balance. That's why we need that third guy. Okay. Now let's take a look at some depictions of the grey side users. Now this is not exactly a grey side of the Force, it's the grey Jedi, because grey side definitions are not yet there. But how would an actual grey side look like? Not the Jedi that were in that intermediate state, but actual grey side. So let's take a look at it now. So, way I see it, the actual grey side of the Force doesn't need a lightsaber, because, as we said, they don't value extremes, they don't value fight, they are a bridge in between, trying to find middle ground between the two sides of the Force. And the weapon doesn't find the middle ground. The weapon is making you dependent of the weapon supplier, and if you're dependent of weapon supplier, practically speaking, you're leaving that middle side, and you are aiming for conflict, because without conflict you don't need the weapon, and weapon supplier doesn't need to sell you a weapon, and whole system like breaks apart. Okay. Okay, so why this point 12, so this picture of a monk without a saber? At least in my opinion, because this is subjective what I say here, this is my opinion. The grey side users would oftentimes choose not to carry a lightsaber, because lightsaber forces you to pledge allegiance to either the light or the darkness. There is no such thing as grey side of the Force lightsaber, because it was not designed for the grey side. As we stated in our previous presentation, the center works on different rules than left and right, and therefore needs different tools. Also, what is important in Sweden here, they don't want to eradicate the enemies, but recognize the necessity of the balance between shadow and the light. So they seek integration, not annihilation. Some might argue that Jedi also aim for integration, although practical implementation is closer to here, close to annihilation. Okay, so let's sum up what we have talked about in here. So there are many definitions of the grey side of the Force. Grey Jedi is not exactly a representation of the grey side of the Force. It's a term that talks about the Jedi who temporarily went to the grey side. Of course, there are many versions of the Great Code that were talked about in our space. Order 66, Rule of the Two, and many other factors contributed to the crisis of masters, lack of masters. So in the world where we lack masters, the grey side might be an answer. And yes, of course, that midichlorian rebellion we mentioned might act as grey side catalyst. Also, yes, bringing balance need a third Force side, and not just like one guy that will miraculously make this balance happen, and that's not how it works. So, Grey Jedi, because they are a Jedi, they use a lightsaber, but I'd argue, but again this is my subjective opinion, that pure grey side doesn't need and doesn't use a lightsaber, as it defines them on the light side or on the dark side. They would have to develop their own tool of some sort. That is a good topic for some other presentation, but for now this is all. Thanks everyone for watching. See you then.